Thank you all so much for joining us for Future Proof Your Privacy Program. This is a three-part webinar series hosted by Ketch, each one diving into a key part of the privacy program. And this one today happens to be our last session of the three on data subject rights fulfillment. So if you're new, welcome. And if you've joined us for all three, thank you so much for spending so much time with Ketch over the last few weeks. Hopefully you've had a few nice lunch hours with us and enjoyed a couple of nice lunches as well with the gift cards. So thanks all for taking the time. To get started, we'll do a couple brief introductions here. My name's Colleen Berry. I'm the marketing lead at Ketch and your moderator facilitator for the session. And then joining me, we have Sahidi. Sahidi, can you give a brief introduction?
Yeah, hey everyone. Thanks so much for joining and listening in. I am Sahidi Sarapaneini, a solutions engineer here at Ketch.
Thanks, Sahidi. So in case anyone on is unfamiliar with Ketch, quick background, we are a data privacy software platform. We help businesses and brands to simplify privacy ops and use responsibly gathered data for business growth. Ketch is headquartered in San Francisco. We also have a London office, and our customers are across the United States, Europe, and the globe. Ketch customers often choose to work with us because of the fresh approach we take to modernizing data privacy compliance. And that leads me to exactly what we're here to talk about, which is best practices and recommendations for modernizing one of the kind of fundamentals of a data privacy program, which is how we all handle data subject rights requests. Actually, maybe a quick point of clarification, Sahidi, maybe you can help me on this just to clarify for the audience. This is an acronym that is always kind of different, right? Sometimes it's DSR, sometimes it's DSAR. We're essentially talking about the same thing, right? When we say those.
That's correct. So when I say DSAR, when my customers are saying DSAR, it could mean two things, typically an access request or a deletion request. And over time, what we're seeing is things like redaction and modification is also really coming into play when these requests are emerging.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying. So here's the flow for today. We'll give a little tee up to how we think about DSARs kind of in the context of the privacy program. Actually, clarification. We have a question on that topic. Sahidi, I don't know if you see in the question box, someone's saying, okay, but what's the right way, DSR or DSAR? I think they're both right. It's maybe personal preference. What do you think?
That's correct. Most times when I see DSAR, it means an access request, whereas DSR is just a data subject request that's coming in.
Okay, data. So DSAR, more specific, maybe. Yeah.
But it varies by organization, by customer, and the market that you're having these conversations in as well.
Perfect. Thanks. So we'll give a little tee up, talk about how we think about DSARs and sort of the context of maturing your privacy program. And then from there, we'll talk about the actual DSAR process. And I'll hand over to Sahidi for an actual demo of kind of how we think about DSRs at Ketch. So to start off here, let's lay a little foundation for sort of how we think about a maturing privacy program and why we want to mature our privacy program, keeping that sort of context of the DSAR approach in mind. So we're seeing a big kind of interesting shift as the why for more privacy innovation. And that why is really the consumer. We're seeing the consumer emerge as a distinct motivating factor for evolving your program. Right. On the left side, we see businesses have been struggling with data privacy, hamstrung by a lot of the complexities in the space. While in the meantime, our consumers are on this concurrent path of having higher and higher expectations for businesses and brands that they work with. They expect responsible data practices. They expect brands to be more transparent about what they do with their data, how they're handling it. And they really just expect to be able to trust the businesses that they work with, that they're handling data in the right way. And so as businesses and brands, we're really facing a big challenge of making and helping our consumers to trust that their data is safe with us. And that will really exert the transparency that they expect to feel safe working with our business. So one of the things we did to really embark on seeing if there's numbers behind this kind of assumption we have that consumers should be the why in privacy innovation is conduct a study 5,000 people across the US and UK, asking them two big questions. What do you think about data privacy? And how do those opinions on data privacy, consumer opinions, actually impact business data practices? So as we conducted this study, a few key findings emerged. One, when we asked people on a scale of 1 to 10, how highly do you value data privacy? 67% in the UK, and this number was actually a little higher in the US, 73%, said that they highly value data privacy. So large majority of consumers say data privacy is a top tier value for me, and they consider it to be an ethical value. Now, when we think about ethical values, we also think about sustainability, diversity, inclusion. And when we ask consumers to rank those ethical values, they rank them significantly sort of lower in priority compared to data privacy. So more people think data privacy is a top tier value, meaning it really can have sort of sweeping effect if we tout it as something that you yourself as a brand are working on and doing a good job on. It really helps consumers to feel secure in the businesses and brands that they give their money to and their wallet share to when they feel that businesses are handling data privacy well. And then as far as sort of another piece of the study that we found really, really interesting is that when it came to sharing their data, even though consumers said, within the context of the study, they said, I really highly value data privacy. And I'm also worried that brands are getting this right. I don't know if they're getting it right or not, the responsible data practices. Overwhelmingly, 81% of consumers said that they see the value in sharing their data with brands. So even though people are concerned about what brands are doing with their data, they actually told us within the context of the study that they understand the value exchange. They get that when they give their data to a brand, there's a value exchange there, and they're giving their data in exchange for something like a more personalized experience, a bigger discount, some kind of benefit from the brand. So it's a really exciting opportunity for brands that businesses understand that value exchange, because that means we can actually start to think about how do we respectfully monetize and personalize our brand experiences with the data that consumers share with us. So we have these consumers right over on that right side of the chasm who are really expecting this great experience. But just to go back to the left for a moment, the complexity that we as business leaders are facing, there's a lot we have to solve for to get to that utopia for our customers. 4 kind of key categories we see here at Ketch, right? One, of course, people complexity. So digital IDs from our customer standpoint are very fragmented. Different types of ways they are showing up online, and makes it difficult for us to recognize them in a really cohesive manner. And not only on the consumer side, but also internally. Privacy is a multi-stakeholder initiative. And so we're dealing with marketing, data, IT, digital leaders across our businesses. First-gen tools, right? We're seeing in the market a lot of lackluster first-gen tools that companies have implemented to solve for data privacy weren't built to solve for a constantly changing landscape that really requires interoperability. Regulations, of course, as we all know, regulations are sprawling across the globe. I think by end of this year, Gartner estimates 75% of people will be affected by data privacy regulations. So just a huge number of regulations we're all tasked to comply with, meaning we have to put in place sustainable compliance solutions. So we're not able to comply just with what's out there now, but what could come to pass in the future from a privacy bill standpoint. And then lastly, sprawling data ecosystems. The number of internal, external SaaS applications that businesses are hosting data in is expanding by the year, if not more. So all of us are tasked with keeping this data across so many different systems. It's a challenging task to make sure that data is responsibly gathered, permissioned, and we really understand the use cases we're allowed to use it for. So a lot of complexity here. The way we think about tackling this complexity is Ketch is along this concept of our capability maturity model. And we think about this and talk about privacy programs in this kind of framework with our customers, because it's a helpful way to sort of crawl, walk, run when it comes to privacy program maturity, right? We start out with programs where we're kind of putting the foundational components of a privacy program in place, then move into programmatic, where we start to enact more automation when it comes to things like DSARs, when it comes to things like taking people's consent choices and respecting those across our data ecosystem. And then the last kind of most mature stage we talk about with our customers is data stewardship, where brands and businesses can really realize full, complete control of data across the ecosystem. So we talk about this maturity curve kind of in 4 key swim lanes, as we see here on this slide: data, risk and compliance, tools and technology, and people. And so we use this framework to talk with our customers about where do you feel like you fall currently with the current maturity of your program, and how can we decide on sort of where within which swim lanes does it make sense to move to the next stage of maturity. And DSRs, the topic today, is just such a great tactical example of the crawl, walk, run phase through this maturity model, because it's the kind of thing you can often start out with, and many orgs start out with in a manual process and then gradually add on more automation and sophistication as your program expands. So with that, I want to hand it over to Sahidi to talk a little bit more about DSAR specifically and how we think about it at Ketch. So Sahidi, please take it away.
Thanks, Colleen. So data subject rights fulfillment. I see a lot of organizations saying this is a core component that they want to embed into their privacy program. And they'll typically start from that programs approach. It's more manual. Then they head over to the programmatic approach, and finally to this notion of data stewardship. So DSARs, in short, are really data subject rights. And what that means is, under various regulations, a data subject or a consumer can invoke or will be afforded with various rights. So for example, under CPRA or CCPA, organizations have to ensure that their data subjects or consumers can say, I want you to delete all my data across your systems. Or they have the ability to say, I actually want to understand all the data you're collecting of me, and they can make an access request. So when it comes to that programs approach, that manual approach, typically when these requests come in, someone in the IT, the tech team, the legal team will manually go in system by system by system, pull in the data that's relevant for that access report, or manually go in and delete the data that's relevant to support the deletion requests. At Ketch, we realized that's a huge problem, and we wanted to solve for that. And the way we wanted to solve for that is really through these 4 differentiators that will help ensure that our customers can go from programs to eventually data stewardship in the long run. So step 1, scalable automation as you grow. As I mentioned already, currently a lot of organizations are taking that manual approach, but as the DSAR volume grows, as new regulations emerge across the globe, we really want to give our customers control and the ability to add in layers of automation into these workflows as they desire. A lot of the automation is through this notion of APIs. Everything in the Ketch platform is intuitive and API centric. So we want to be your tech team. We want to do all the development work for you. So when those deletion requests do come in, let's say, we automatically delete that user level information through the APIs that we've built in those third-party systems, such as a HubSpot, let's say. But thinking about granular cell level data control, a lot of this data is also being captured and collected in organizations' internal systems, such as internal databases or tables of some sort. So we also want to give our customers the opportunity to ensure that they can enable the appropriate workflows where they can delete specific columns or cells within internal databases when those deletion requests come in, let's say. And finally, we like to say privacy is a team sport. So a lot of times IT and tech teams are already over capacity and they don't have the time to build these workflows. So legal and privacy teams come into play and actually are tasked to build these workflows. Sometimes these workflows require APIs or coding. We want to avoid that approach, and we want to make sure the Ketch platform is really intuitive, regardless of your skill set, regardless of the team that you're a part of. So what you'll see during the demo is really when you're building these workflows, it's just drag and drop infrastructure, and it's up to you to decide the order of operations that you want to embed in these workflows. And really, at the end of it all, reporting and queue level intelligence. So we want to create the appropriate reports to serve as an audit trail to ensure you know exactly who has made this request, also providing visuals and metrics for you as an organization to understand and say, wow, we're getting this many DSARs per month. That's really interesting. I had no idea. And all these DSARs are coming from these various regulations. So we wanted to create, high-level executive dashboards and reports where you start to visualize and understand the appropriate metrics associated to the DSARs that are incoming. And what does this mean? What's the value of getting this right? So based off of everything that I just ran through, it's really reducing the cost of processing requests. So when you take that manual approach and you slowly start to automate it over time, you're relieving your IT and tech team to manually go into these systems and deleting or creating access reports of some sort of individuals. And as you're automating this approach, you're ensuring your stakeholders within the IT and tech team can actually shift their priorities and focus on other KPIs, since the workflows have essentially been automated through Ketch. You're improving response times to complete these type of requests. So as these requests are coming in, an end user or an organization typically has 30 to 45 days based off of the organization or the regulation to complete these requests. And a lot of times, a lot of organizations struggle to complete and fulfill these requests, even though they have a month's worth of time to actually fulfill it. So with the power of automation, you're improving response times and potentially creating automation where you fulfill these requests in 24 hours or 48 hours even. And in turn, that increases trust and builds a relationship with your customer or data subject. So if I, as a data subject, have been waiting for long periods of time for my deletion request to actually be fulfilled, I'll start getting a lot more frustrated with that organization or entity. Whereas if you're improving your response times, you're providing transparency, you're letting them know, here's all the information we're gathering of you, here's all the information deleted of you, that's increasing trust, and in turn, you're ensuring compliance as well. So let's jump into a brief demo. I want to split the demo into really two parts. One, I want you to understand how to build out these workflows in the Ketch platform, and then we'll shift gears a little bit and then look at how we can invoke a request in the lens of a data subject or a consumer coming to a website. So I'll jump in. So here's an example of a workflow that I've set up within the Ketch platform. And it's really up to you as an organization to determine how you want to enable these workflows. But as an example, for this workflow, I've said this is focused on data deletion specifically. And anytime a deletion request from a data subject comes in for these various regulations, such as PIPEDA, CPRA, CCPA, or even Law 25, that's a new emerging regulation in Quebec, essentially just trigger this workflow and kickstart it. So if I hit edit, we'll start to understand how I've built out this workflow. Now, to the left-hand side, you'll have various activities that you can incorporate into your workflows. So certain activities that you can incorporate is things like identity verification. And again, it's just drag and drop capabilities. And as you can see within my workflow, I've actually embedded that as the first step whenever a deletion request comes in. So once that identity verification process kickstarts, essentially what happens by default is Ketch will send an email to that data subject that will say, click on this link, verify you are actually sahidi@ketch.com. So that's the default methodology. But if your organization has custom identity verification protocols, we can definitely add that and incorporate that into the workflows. At the very bottom, as you can see here, are various API connectors. Again, these are all pre-built API connectors, so you're not doing any of the dev work. And again, drag and drop capabilities. Once that identity verification has been set up and an end user has verified their identity, what I've gone ahead and said and set up is I've said, delete that end user from this third-party system called Airship, Yotpo, and HubSpot. But as I mentioned, we can also tap into internal databases as well. So you have the ability to execute and decide where exactly user level information within your internal databases need to be deleted. Shifting gears a little bit, adding in additional activities after this deletion process has been completed across these different third-party and internal systems. I've gone ahead and embedded a data subject email activity. So once these tasks have been completed in an automated way, I've said, let's communicate with that data subject and let them know that their information has been deleted. Now, the subject, the body, all of that can be customized based on how you like to communicate with your data subject. And finally, I like to show this just as an example. I have a lot of customers saying, well, we still want to take a manual approach, and that's completely okay. So as an example here, if that's your preference for this current workflow setup, you can add in as many manual tasks as you want. And then you can also associate and assign those manual tasks to various individuals within your organization or across different teams. So I've gone ahead and said, once all these activities have been set up, let's go ahead and assign this to someone, and they'll actually come in, QA, and appropriately make sure that all this is set up the right way and information has successfully been deleted from the appropriate systems. So this is an example of a workflow. Now let's see it live in the lens of a consumer. So very quickly, as an example, here is my information being captured in a HubSpot environment. So this is a common CRM tool that I see a lot of my customers leveraging, where they capture an end user's first name, last name, email address, etc. Very quickly, let's go ahead and assume I am that data subject. I come to a customer's website and I come to the preference center. So this is hosted and powered by Ketch, and the preference center actually can be just a link within your footer of the website. That's really up to you, but this is an example of a preference center and the structure of it. Based off of my location, so as an example, I'm coming from California, I will see the appropriate rights associated to that regulation of CPRA. I'll fill in some basic details such as delete my data and add in personal details such as my first name, my last name, my email address, and then I'll go ahead and hit submit. Once I hit submit, since my initial workflow was set up to support that identity verification, as that data subject, I will see this specific email show up in my inbox. So I have 2 days to respond or the request instantly expires. So I'll go ahead and verify my identity. And now, as you can see, my identity has been successfully verified. Now I'll go into the Ketch platform and we'll shift gears a bit and showcase exactly what this request looks like as an organization seeing this request come into the rights queue.
Hey, Sahidi, can I jump in real quick? I have a live question. I want to get it in.
Yeah, of course.
The question is, can you automate confirmation responses to the data subject based on the results from the API calls?
Yes, absolutely. So that's an additional email activity that you just embed into the workflow.
Great, thanks.
Yep. So right here is that request I just made real time. I'll click on it. And a lot of my customers like to leverage this as their audit trial and reporting mechanism as well. And it showcases the subject details, the name, the email, what that request entails. And if I go into this workflow view, as you can see, it will showcase here exactly the status of steps that have successfully been completed. So my information via the power of APIs has been completely deleted in Airship, Yotpo, and HubSpot, those third-party systems. And it's still searching and validating and confirming how to delete my information within the internal databases. So as you can see here, this is an example of a status showcasing something that's still in progress. And if I go back to that HubSpot view, and let's go ahead and hit refresh. And as you can see, through the power of those APIs, my information has automatically been deleted within that HubSpot environment without any manual intervention. So I wanted to end there because we have only 3 minutes left and just open the floor for any questions. I hope this was helpful and intuitive, and it wasn't as overwhelming as you might have thought, because when you think about building out that programs to programmatic approach, it's very easy to do as long as you have a platform to leverage that's intuitive and ensures that your various stakeholders can organically collaborate within the tool itself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sahidi. Really appreciate the demo there. I did get a couple more little questions in the chat here, so I think we've got time, so let's go ahead and address them. One, this person says, we are currently able to manage the number of requests we have coming in a manual way. Is that okay? Is it okay to continue managing manual process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I hear that a lot. It's completely okay. And like I highlighted in the workflow, you can have a full end-to-end manual workflow embedded in the Ketch platform. The one thing I do like to highlight, though, is it's not just about consumer or data subject requests anymore. Employees also now have the ability to invoke these specific rights. And in addition to that, it's not just CPRA or GDPR. That's a common regulation where these rights are afforded. There's many, many emerging regulations that require you to afford these rights as well. So I'm seeing a lot of my customers, even though they have that manual approach, they can maintain it. It's not that strenuous. They're trying to be as forward thinking as possible due to the number of regulations that are just constantly emerging.
Great, thanks. Great point about employees. All right, and then one last question before we wrap. What if Ketch currently does not have an API connector available for a specific system that we want to use for DSARs?
Yeah, another great question. So currently we have 400 plus connectors readily available. If there is a system, and as long as there are APIs available for that system, we are more than okay to scoping that out and building that API integration for our customers, because again, we do not want our customers doing any of the dev or the technical work. Let us do that. Let us manage that for you. It's typically a 4 to 6 week process from scoping to vetting to building out the integration. But again, we were more than happy to build out any new integrations as desired.
Perfect. All right, folks. Well, we're right at the top of the hour, so I think we'll call it for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Sahidi, thanks for the great demo. And thank you all again for joining us for the entire series. You'll be hearing from our sales team in the next day or two with a gift card on Ketch to hopefully enjoy a nice lunch break on us sometime soon. And with that, we'll go ahead and call it a day. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.